What's up, everybody? Happy Monday night. It's Chris Pombonyo here for another episode of Get Your Teach On Live. On tonight's episode, our friend Greg Coleman from Mr. Elementary Math is going to be here telling you how to rock your math blog. So stay tuned for that. Tonight's episode is sponsored by our friends at Really Good Stuff, who are doing some incredible things in the classroom. Now, before we get tonight started, we want to make sure there's as many Edu Rockstars in here as possible. So here's what I need you to do. You know the drill. Take out your phone and get ready to film an Instagram story when I count you down from 3. Then you're going to post that on your Instagram story. Tag me, tag Greg, tag Get Your Teach On, Really Good Stuff, to let them know to head on over to Facebook right now for tonight's episode. While you're at it, go ahead and share tonight's episode on Facebook by hitting the share button right there in the comments. Just hit share, let everyone know to head on over to tune in for Greg right now on tonight's episode. So get ready to start filming in 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? It's Chris Pombonyo back on the Get Your Teach On Facebook page for another episode of Get Your Teach On Live. On tonight's episode, Mr. Elementary Math himself is here, Greg Coleman, giving you tips and tricks on how to rock your math block. See you on Facebook. Go ahead and post that on your story and tag us all to let everyone know to head on over. The more you share the episodes, the more chances you have to win in the final episode of the season. So every week, go ahead and share out on Facebook, on Instagram, and let everyone know to watch the episode. If you're catching the replay, you can still share the love. Go ahead and hit that share button on Facebook and let everyone know. In the comments, I want to hear about how your Rock Your School Day was. On Thursday, just a few days ago, over 50,000 educators worldwide rocked their school, and we want to hear how the day went. So in the comments, let us know what lesson you did, and let us know the reaction from your students and how the day went. We had an amazing time in Panama City Beach, rocking West Bay Elementary, and if you missed our special edition of the live, check out a recap of the day. That's just a small clip of our official Rock Your School 2019 Rockumentary, which premiered on Facebook Friday night. So if you haven't checked that out yet, head on over to the Get Your Teach On Facebook page and watch our official Rockumentary as we break down from beginning to end Rock Your School 2019 and see some highlights from schools across the world. You might have seen in that video, Steve Spangler joined us at West Bay in Panama City Beach, and he rocked their school with an amazing experience for them. And if you tuned into Thursday night's live, you found out that Steve Spangler is going to be one of our keynote speakers at Get Your Teach On's 2020 National Conference. He's going to bring in being the magic of science, that experience, to the National Conference next summer in Orlando, Florida. So if you want to join Steve Spangler and the Get Your Teach On team, registration is now open for Nationals 2020 at getyourteachon.com. And tickets are filling fast. It might seem far away now, but Nationals is the place that you do not want to miss. So join us in Orlando to see Steve Spangler as one of our keynote speakers. And if you're already planning ahead, Rock Your School 2020, we announced the date earlier this week, September 24th, 2020. Registration is now open if you plan to rock your school. So we set a goal this year of 50,000 educators, and the only way we could know that many participated is whoever registered. So we're a little ahead of ourselves this year, so we're going to start registration now. So if you rocked your school this year and you plan to rock your school again this whole year and on Rock Your School Day next year, you can register your school right now to get ahead of the game while there's still time. So while it's fresh on your mind, visit rockyourschoolday.com to register your school to let us know that you rocked this year, you're going to rock all year, and you definitely plan on rocking next year. So September 24th, 2020 is our next official Rock Your School date. Now, if you're thinking of joining us at an upcoming Get Your Teach On conference, we have an awesome podcast that you may want to check out that gives you a behind-the-scenes kind of look from an attendee's perspective. Our friend Jacob Chastain from the Teach Me Teacher podcast, he gave you a behind-the-scenes look to his experience with his friend Haley as they attended Get Your Teach On's national conference last summer. So if you want to check out what they have to say and hear all the tips and tricks and inside secrets on what they thought about the conference, go ahead and visit the Teach Me Teacher podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, with Jacob Chastain to see that behind the scenes look from an attendee's perspective of Get Your Teach On. That recently came to our attention and we absolutely loved everything he had to say, and it really gave you an inside look into the conference. So go ahead and check it out. Jacob Chastain with the Teach Me Teacher podcast. So thank you, Jacob, for doing that. It's a 2-part series. So listen to that, check it out, and join us at an upcoming Get Your Teach On conference. Now, speaking of upcoming conferences, if you joined us on Instagram Live just a little bit ago, Greg and I were talking about that in just a few weeks. Get Your Teach On New England is going down. Now, this is the first time ever that the Get Your Teach On team is heading up to the Northeast. A lot of the team is going to be headed to New York City on that trip, and you might want to plan the same. So if you want to get to your Teach On in New England, limited seats are still available. So visit getyourteachon.com to sign up to grab your seat for New England. Registration is still open for grades K through 6, but you're going to have to do it fast. So get on there this week. Grab your seat for Get Your Teach On New England. If you're already attending, these important announcements are for you. So if you're going to be in New England, pre-orders for your official grade level t-shirt are now available at getyourteachon.com. So if you go to preorder.getyourteachon.com, it'll take you directly to the link for New England attendees only to grab their grade level t-shirt to rock at the conference in New England in just a few weeks. Now, these are only available for pre-order for New England attendees. These shirts will not be shipped, but you can pick them up at the conference once you get there. Once again, this is for New England attendees only, and those pre-orders will end on September 30th. So visit preorder.getyourteachon.com to pre-order shirt to get ready for New England. Also, if you're going to be headed to New England, our friend Nicholas Ferroni is doing a special lunch session that you're definitely going to want to check out. So check your email. A link was sent out earlier today to all New England attendees for this optional lunch session that you can check out during the conference. So if you want to get into social studies and simulations that Nicholas does in his classroom and hear more about that and integrating social studies into your classroom, you can check your email and sign up for that optional lunch session with Nicholas Ferroni. So make sure you check your email to check that out. We just have a lot of announcements. We have a lot of announcements happening right now and a lot of exciting things. Before we get to New England, Get Your Lead On is happening next week. This week. Is it already this week? Yes, it's this week, this Friday in Austin, Texas. Now, that conference is officially sold out. So Adam DeVico and Todd Nesloni are going to be rocking with leaders this Friday in Austin, Texas. And registration is still open for Get Your Lead On Charlotte happening October 28th. So if you want to get your lead on, this is for district leaders, school leaders, aspiring school leaders, instructional coaches, anyone who really wants to take their Get Your Teach On experience and spread it school-wide or district-wide. Sign up for Get Your Lead On at getyourteachon.com to join Adam and Todd and their special guests in Charlotte on October 28th. So that's going to be going down at the Sheraton Charlotte in just a few weeks. This just in, we have another special announcement for registration. Get Your Teach On's next level conference. Registration is now opening. Greg and I talked about this earlier on the live. Get Your Teach On team is heading to Atlanta to give you a deeper look into your standards and to dive deeper into your content standards. So Get Your Teach On gives you an overview, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, of how to increase your engagement in all content areas. With Get Your Teach On next level, you're really going to dive deeper into your standards to increase the engagement, to increase the rigor, and it's going down in Atlanta in 2020. So it's a year away, but registration is now open as of right now. So you might want to open a second tab on your computer. You can listen to this while you're signing up. Registration for next level is currently open and seats will fill fast for that. So if you want to dive deeper into your ELA or math standards, you can check that out. Hotel reservations for that, we're going to be opening up soon, but since it's over a year away, they're not available yet. The hotel's not selling rooms just yet. So don't send the emails yet. Just hold on. You can register now and then get your hotel later. So those are our logistics out of the way. Now, someone else is going to rock your classroom, and that is Mr. Elementary Math himself, Greg Coleman. Talk about diving deeper into your standards. He's about to give you an inside look into his Get Your Teach On sessions on activities to rock your math block. So he's going to tell you how to get your students up, moving, make math fun, hands-on, but really hit those standards and increase the rigor. So please welcome to Get Your Teach On Live, Mr. Elementary Math, Mr. Greg Coleman. How you doing, Greg?
What's going on, Chris? How's everything?
I'm surprised you're still there and you didn't fall asleep with all my announcements I just had.
No, I
know. Me too. You were clapping along. Every announcement I made, Greg, I could see him in the corner. He was like, especially when we said Atlanta. So you're not going to have to travel too far when we come to Atlanta, the PA, for next level next year. So I know you're excited about that because you're really ready to dive into some math content and really give them some extra ways to dive into those math content. So I'm excited about that. Now, Greg, as we've been doing all season, we're giving Edu Rockstars an inside look into Get Your Teach On sessions. So before you get started, talk a little bit about your sessions that you do at Get Your Teach On and why you think it's so important to really amp up the engagement when we teach math.
Sure. So I do two sessions. Well, at the Nationals, I did two different sessions, and one was on the activities that rock the math block. The other was on math centers. However, the thing that I think is so important with this is that with any subject, it has to be engaging. I want you to think about when you go to the movies, when you go to a concert, you expect engagement, right? The same for kids. When they come to school, they want to be engaged. Otherwise, they're going to be bored. And there are simple ways we can engage kids. We don't have to be so elaborate sometimes. It's great to do that, but there are simple things that we can do that will engage our students. So there are call and responses that we can do to help support our kids. We can switch things up, put definitely manipulatives. You can change it up, put it in a basket, put it in a bin, make it something different other than what you do every day. Another great thing that I love is math read alouds. So there are so many great math read alouds out there. That's a great way to engage your students through math, as well as using literacy standards to tie in. So it's critical.
So I'm going to turn things over to you now to give us an inside look at how to rock your math block. Now, Greg is going to be sharing some activities, tips, tricks, resources. And if you stick around to the end, we're going to tell you how you can sign up to receive some of those resources totally free in your email tomorrow. So stick around to the end to make sure that you get those resources sent to you. So Greg, take it away.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I see our first slide on. So like I said, during this session, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is the activities that rock the block. And this season, I'm doing it for grades 2, and I will be in sessions for grades 5 and 6. So those will be the two grade bands that I'm going to primarily be working with. So I'm going to share just a little bit about what I do there. Okay, so my overall goal when I do this session is to build number sense in our students in a fun way, because we know that our students, some of them come lacking number sense, right? I see you nodding your head. So some of the things as I think through the lens of number sense and building number sense and understanding of math as a whole, these are the characteristics. There are 3 things. There are more than 3 things, but there are 3 things that I always think are important. The first one is flexibility with numbers. You want your kids to be flexible so that they can decompose numbers, compose them again, make sense of them. The other thing is for your kids to have understanding of number relationships. That will really help in terms of building number sense, because oftentimes we just think that our kids what I find is that our kids really understand, pretty much understand numbers 0 through 100. When we get past 100, it gets a little fuzzy. Between 100 and 1,000, it gets fuzzy. And then larger than 1,000, it's really like, okay, what are these numbers? So we have to really build understanding in terms of really understanding, for example, the number 112 is only 12 numbers away from 100, and it's 88 numbers away from 200, right? Or it's 8 numbers away from 120. So we have to really get our kids to understand the relationship between numbers. And the greatest thing about that is building a great understanding of 5s and 10s. Okay, so building a great understanding of 5s and 10s. So you can ask questions like, how close are these numbers to the next decade? So for example, how close is the number 112 to the next decade? Which 2 decades is it between, or multiples of 10? So 110 is between 100. 112 is between 110, and it's between 120. That will really help set up our kids really nicely so that as they move up from kindergarten to 1st grade to 2nd grade, and when they get to 3rd grade, and then they are starting to understand rounding, depending on what state you're in, they really have an understanding of rounding. Okay, so like I said, flexibility is important to build number sense, understanding of number relationships, and making sense of numbers. I know many of you guys want to make sure that your kids make sense of numbers, because sometimes in classes you probably see with your students, that they will just, if they see like a story problem or a word problem, they'll just look at the numbers and just add, right? We don't want them to do that. We want them to make sense of what's going on in there so that they can solve the problem appropriately. So those are 3 things that will help build number sense. So that is my goal during the time when I do this. So we're going to move on to our next slide. So I want to start out, and this is very new stuff, guys, very new stuff that I'm sharing. All right. So you're getting a sneak peek into very new stuff. So I want to start out by representation and what to represent means. So there are a few synonyms that you see documented at the top. To stand for is one of the synonyms. The other is to depict. Another is an example. So to represent is an important concept. And I think representing numbers is really important. But we have to first build understanding of what representing numbers and what representing means in the first place. So the way I would share that with kids would be like this. I would have a picture like what you see here. And what I would share is that we represent situations in so many different ways. We have times in which we represent our favorite teams. Here we see the New York Mets. We have times in which we represent our families. We have times when we represent our school. And you have times that you represent your classroom. So when you're representing things, say, for example, that means that in that picture we're looking at, all of those people represent, or they stand for, in unity, the New York Mets. And we know that because they have the gear on, they have the hat, they have the shirts on. And that's how some of them look similar. But when you represent things, you have similarities, but you also have differences. So when we look at this picture, let's look at some of the differences that we notice. So we notice that there are some kids there. I see a toddler to my right. I see men. I see females. I see women with long hair. I see people with short hair. So there are differences when we represent. So the one thing about all those differences is great to have differences, because ultimately all of these differences make for greatness, and they come together to be to represent and stand for one thing. And all these people stand for the New York Mets, and that's why they're there. But we represent things in different ways. All right. So that's how I start sharing about representation. So I go through the lens of a picture and really say, okay, how they are the same, how the people are the same, and how they are a little different, but they represent the New York Mets because they want the Mets to win, right? So with this, we're going to represent numbers. So I'm going to switch to my next slide. So we're going to talk really about representation. I talked a little bit about similarities and differences when it comes to representing. Now I want to talk about why representing numbers is so important in different ways. The first example is through time. So you notice that we have different ways to represent the same time. Notice the first one is 2:15, which we'll see on our cell phone. And that is something that's digital time. Then in the middle, we have it in word form, 2:15. So that looks very different than the digital time. And then we have the analog time, which uses the shorthand, which is for hour, and the longer hand, which represents the minutes. So notice, all 3 of those representations are different. However, they all represent or stand for the time 2:15. So we have to get our students to really see that things, even though they're different, they still stand for the same thing. And in this case, 2:15. All right. So let me give you another example about why representation is so important. So I'm going to switch to the next slide. So we have our famous subtraction algorithm that we use in the US. So here you notice we have 158. We're taking that away from 284, right? So when our students do this, typically they're going to solve and they're going to notice that, oh gosh, I have 4. We're splitting it up into columns. We go from hundreds to tens to ones if you use this method at all. So I'm going to start by saying, I understand the method. I'm not a proponent of this method. I love the open number line, but I'm going to share through the lens of this method, the standard subtraction algorithm. So we start by saying, okay, we see that in order to have a positive number, we cannot take 4 from 8 with a positive number. So we have to regroup, right? So we look at our next column, which is our tens place. So we have to take something and gather some 10 from there to help out our 4. So we're going to go to our next slide. So typically when students are regrouping or solving this using the standard algorithm, this is what they would do, right? So they would cross out the 4, make it a 14. They will cross out the 8 and make it a 7. However, one thing that I find very interesting when I think of representation is, and this is a question I ask all the time to students. My question is, what does that 7 stand for? And what does that 14 stand for? And you know what kids say when I ask that question, or when I've asked that question. What do your kids say when you ask that question? They probably say something like this. That 7 represents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7 ones, right? And they say that 14 is the number 14. So if I counted up to 14, that would be 14 ones, right? So think about this. Our students think that that 7 represents 7 ones. However, we're going to go to our next slide. In actuality, it does not at all. And this is not all students, but this is quite a few kids. I would say over 50% of students, when I ask that question, that's what they'll say. Do they really understand that that 7 is 7 tens and that 14 is 14 ones? So when we think about 7 tens and 14 ones, those are representations of numbers. However, we're going to go to the next slide. The 7 tens represent 70. The 14 ones represents 14. And when we combine 70 and 14, we get 84. And notice that 84 is the same thing that is right there that we just regrouped with. But oftentimes it's like an aha, because our students never really understand that or see that 7 tens and 14 ones is 84, which is the same as the 84 that we just renamed. So I say this to say that even though they look different, which I started out the beginning, right, about how things look different, they still represent the same thing. So 7 tens, 14 ones still represents 84, which is a renaming of that amount, right? So we have to get our kids to really understand how numbers can look different, but still represent and stand for the same thing. So we're going to move to our next slide. So now I'm going to introduce an activity called Rep Your Number, because we're talking about representation, right? So we're going to rep your number. And pretty much this is a partner activity where your students work together to represent numbers in different ways. So what I love about this is this. The sheet looks just like this, and they have to find different ways. So what your students would do is you would assign a number or a value to your students. You can work this in any grade level, starting from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade, even middle school. So we may increase our numbers as we get to 4th and 5th grade, or we may use fractions and decimals here. But our goal is for our students to work either in pairs or to work in teams. And when they work together, they are going to each find a different way to represent that amount. So here we have 125. They have to represent it in different ways, right? So here on this sheet, we see they have 50 and 50 and 25. Then we have 100 plus 10 plus 10 plus 5. Then we have another representation, which is 12 tens and 5 ones, which still represents 125. And notice, all of these representations look different, but they still represent this amount. And when we get our kids to do this kind of work, understanding that subtraction and with the renaming will become a lot easier for them, okay? So this is an activity that you can use. You can do it as a warm-up when your kids come into class in the morning. You can have them do this together, not separate, but together. Another way you can use this is as an early finisher activity. You can have your students represent. The thing that I love about this is this. After they represent, I have a wonderful, nice connection. What they can do is they can cut out each of these squares, and they're going to pull the representation that they like the most. So they'll cut it up and it looks just like this. And one thing that I failed to mention is that when I printed this, I printed it on full-size labels. So this was on full-size labels right here, because these are going to become name tags. So this is going to become our students' name for the day, okay? So I love it because it makes our students become accountable. They are a name. So that's their name for the day, whatever this is. And they'll love it because they're like, oh, I'm starting to understand this representation. I'm starting to see how it can look different, but still is the same. So once they do that, you can play a little game. And this is called the number line, the human number line game. So that's going to be on our next slide. So the way this works is this. The human number line is an activity that I do at many Get Your Teach On sessions. And I switch it up. I like to change things up every so often. So here you always have to start with benchmark numbers. Benchmark numbers, you can start with 0. You can go all the way to 500, or you can start at 0, go all the way to 1,000, start at 0, go to 10,000. It's up to you. You can even use this activity with decimals as well as fractions, okay? What your students would do, what you would pick, basically in this example, since we did the number 125, I have a 0, a student who would stand as a 0, a student who would represent 250, and a student who would represent 500. I would draw or put a tape down an actual number line using either masking tape or duct tape on my floor. And I'm going to show you a picture of how that looks really soon, right? What you'll have is you'll have 3 students already up. You'll have the student who represents at the beginning of that number line, which is at 0. You'll have a student who's right in the middle for 250. Then you'll have a student at the end for 500. What you're going to have is, like I said, different teams, you'll assign them perhaps different numbers. So one team might be, will have the number 125, whereas another team may have a number like 399. You may have another team that has the number 75. So they're all finding different ways to represent their particular number. What you'll do is you can pick one student from each team. And what they'll need to do is they'll need to pick their favorite representation. They'll come up to the front of the room and they'll stand in the place where they belong. So for example, if I was 125, which is what we were just represented, I would have to find my place on this number line. What you don't want them to do is to show the other kids in the class the number that they have. Or the number that they're representing. So you'll keep it covered. They'll keep it covered just like this. They'll walk to their space in the number line in front of your classroom. And then what will happen is the other kids in the class, they're going to have to think, what number does my friend have? So if Greg was on the line, right? I have the number 125. What you would ask your students would be, once I stand on the number line, what number do you think Greg has in his hand? And what number do you think he's representing? So they would have to use academic vocabulary, math vocabulary. You're going to get a lot of responses. They're going to say, and you're going to hear a lot of great discussion. Some kids may say 100. Some kids may say 75. Some kids may say 200. So the question that you want to ask is, why do you believe that is Greg's the number that he's representing? So then they'll tell you why they believe that. So the goal would be for me, if I was, to stand right between 0 and 250. So you'll hear vocabulary like, ultimately, like he's standing right between or halfway between 0 and 250. So I think his number may be 125, which is halfway between there. Or they may say 150. If they give numbers that are within range, what I love about this is a great formative assessment. Your students are always, they're thinking, and it makes them really think. So in your mind, you as the teacher will know, okay, if they said that Greg's number was 300, I might need to give them some more help with this, because what you notice is Greg is standing between 0 and 250. There's no way that his number could be 300. It tells you a lot about students' number knowledge and proximity of numbers when they're doing this activity. So I'm going to switch to our next slide. So when I do this at Get Your Teach On, I do it with whole numbers and I do it with decimals. And this is kind of how it looks. Remember, I shared with you guys that I used duct tape or painter's tape. You notice that in the first picture, there is the green tape that's on the floor. And then in the second picture, you can't see the tape. But what you notice is that the participants, they're holding up the benchmark numbers that I came about. And then there are other participants that have something in their hand. And what they're doing is they are standing. They had to go up and stand on that line. And then everyone in the audience has to really figure out what number do they have. And it really is great because there's valuable discussion. Students and people they just say such awesome things, and the language that comes out of it is so awesome. So think about what will happen in your classroom if we're doing this as adults, what kids would say. So you really have to have, it really brings up great discussion, which is one of the standards for math practice. So that is pretty much how the human number line works. And let me follow up by saying this. Once your students have guessed what number, say, for example, Greg has, after you have taken maybe a few responses, then Greg can reveal his amount. So I'm representing 125, which is right here. Oops, I'm representing 125. And then they can go refine their thinking and say, oh, wait, I thought it was this one because of this, or I thought it was this because of this. You'll have students that say that. So think about all of that thinking that's going on in this activity. Think about it. We're building number sense. They're looking at numbers and approximates. They're actually ordering their numbers and understanding that this number, 125 belongs between this as well as this. So that is an awesome, awesome strategy that you guys could use in your class. All right. So that's the human number line. Now I have another that I'm going to share. This activity that I'm sharing now is called the number line roll. Now that we did the human number line, what your kids can do in center time is this activity. So pretty much this is a center activity where your students will order and they're going to plot up to 6 numbers and place them on the number line. So I have a little sample here as well. It's not filled out. So what you'll need to do this, you'll need 3 dice or number generators, number cubes, it depends on what you call them. So notice I have 3 number cubes as well. I have my number line roll sheet. And what your students will do is they'll roll 6 times, and once they roll, they are going to form a number. So here I have, let's see, let me read this, 336. So what I'll do is once I do that, I would place it under my roll. I would roll again and then form a number, write that here, and I'll keep rolling until I roll 6 times and write all my numbers here. Once I do that, then I have to order my numbers from least to greatest. So once they've rolled 6 times and recorded all their rolls, then they'll order their numbers from least to greatest. So notice I'm building number sense. I'm also talking about comparing numbers. Think about how much goes into that. After that, what they'll do is all they have to do is plot their number on the number line. So they've had experience doing that because you did it with the human number line, right? You did it whole class. Now you could bring this to centers activities. And this would be a great, great handy center activity, something that your students can do over and over again. The thing I would recommend is perhaps laminating this sheet or putting it inside of a sheet protector so that you don't have to make a zillion copies. All right. So that's a quick tip for that. So that's a center activity that you'll have access to right after this. So that's the number line roll. Next, we're going to move into our last and final activity. And this is one that I get questions about all the time because you guys probably have seen this in photos, right? Yeah, I know you do. I know you did. So this is called the number dig. And this is a fun game that you can use with your students where you're going to show them clues, and then they're going to have to form numbers as a result of the clues that you show them. So I'm going to share with you how I'm not going to actually do this particular one. I'm going to do a different variation when I meet with 2nd grade as well as 5th and 6th grade, but I wanted to show you one so that you get a sense of how it works. So the things that you need would be a basket like this. You can grab this basket. People ask all the time, where do you get this from? I got this from IKEA. You can also grab baskets like this from Walmart. And notice I have player 1 on the front. There are 2 players to this game. So I would break my class into 2 teams. Team 1 would basically be player 1. Team 2 would be player 2. Okay. Inside of the basket, we have a lot of balls here. So it makes it just a lot of fun. And also inside, I have actual numbers. So I have magnetic numbers. I'm trying to make sure you guys can see those. Magnetic numbers inside as well. Okay. So in addition to those few materials, the other thing that you'll need for this would be a magnetic dry erase board. Okay. So you'll need this as well. So the way this works is, like I said, you'll split your class up into 2 different teams, right? Then you'll give them clues like this. I'm going to show you one clue, and then they're going to build it. So example 1 would be build a number that's equal to 20 tens. So one piece of advice that I would really share with you is once your kids see the clue, right? Give them time to think about it. Don't say, look at the clue, go. You want them to have some think time. So I would perhaps build in maybe a 10 to 15 second delay. So perhaps 10 to 15 seconds just to read what's on the slide. And then the 2 members will run up and they'll try to form this clue. The other tip with this particular activity, and like I said, I'm building number sense here, is this. I would not start with having numbers or magnetic numbers like these inside of this. I would start you by having base 10 blocks like these, okay? Because you want to start with the concrete. Remember, we talked about this on the IG Live. We talked about starting with concrete. So in order to do that, you want to make sure you have base 10 blocks so that your kids can represent it with the base 10 blocks. And then they their number on here, okay? So I'm showing you the advanced version. After you've done the base 10 blocks enough times, then you can use the actual number. So you would have them form a number that's equal to that. So I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to dig in. I would say go. So now I have to form a number. Let's see. Okay. 20 tens is 200. I need a number smaller or equal to 200. Oh my goodness. Let's see. So your kids are racing. They're racing. So it's two teams. Like I said, it's one student who's up at the inside this basket like I am, trying to find the numbers, trying to find something. I'm trying to find, what is this? I'm looking for this. Okay. Wow. I'm building a number that is equal to 20 tens. And this is my number, 200. So 200 is the same as 20 tens. I represented that, right? All right. So that's one way. Then after that student has gone, they will put their numbers right back in the basket. And then you'll have another student from each of those teams to come up. You'll give them 10 to 15 seconds to look at the clue first. So it says, build a number that's less than, it looks like 200 plus 40 plus, I can't really see what that other one is. And I don't remember, but it's blocked on my screen. I think it's 249. I think it's 249, I think. So what I have to do is find a number or build a number that's less than 249. So like I said, give your kids 10 to 15 seconds wait time, and then go. Build a number less than, let's see. Oh, all right, here's my number. Oh, let's make this, straighten this out. So my number is 78. And I know that it's less than 200 because there are only 7 tens, whereas 200 has 2 hundreds, which is more than any amount that I have here. So think about that. This is a great activity that you can use with your students. It's fun. It makes math very engaging. So that is called the number dig. And remember, I said to start, don't start with the numbers. You want to start with base 10 blocks. So you can throw in base 10 blocks into that basket and have them build those base 10 blocks, build based on those clues, and then record their number right below it. All right. So that was my final tip for you guys today. So during this session, I shared with you a few of the things that I do in my session, activities that rock the math block. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, these are activities that you can use in many different grade levels. We can use this with our kindergarten students. We can have them build numbers that are within 10, have them do that. We can use it with our 5th grade students while they represent decimals, right? We can have them use it with our 4th grade students to represent fractions. We can have them use it with our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade to build number sense. Think about that. So right now, I just shared with you how you can use this activity across your grade spans. So this is definitely something that you want to use in your class to help build number sense. Remember, what was important to me was building flexibility with numbers, which we have talked about with rep your number, right? We also talked about the making sense of numbers. So they have to make sense when they're using this game because they have to know something about, when I said 20 tens, you have to know that that is 200. So it's better for them to build it, right? The third thing I said flexibility, making sense of your number, as well as I said that they have to understand number relationships. And we talked a lot about number relationships when I showed you the number line role and the human number line. So I share with you some tips that you guys could use in your classrooms like immediately. And those templates are free. So those are a few things that I do in my session. I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to coming to New England to see my 2nd grade teachers. Make sure you say hello to me, and my 5th and 6th grade teachers. I want you to say what's up. And when I see you kindergarten 1st, 3rd, and 4th, I want to see you guys too. All right. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys. That was just a few things of how I use or what I do in my activities that rock the math block session.
Mr. Greg Coleman, everybody, Mr. Elementary Math himself. Now, Greg, I love how you said that these can be applied to any grade level, any content area within your math standards, and really just get kids up and moving and really making sense of those numbers. So, I thought you were grabbing your. I thought you were gonna play another round. I wasn't sure. You're just cleaning up. That's important. Clean up after you're done. So if you want to see more of Greg, you can join him at one of our upcoming Get Your Teach On conferences. He's going to be headed to Get Your Teach On New England. Seats are still available for that, grades K through 5. And Greg, people are asking in the comments about your shirt, so I'm going to let you talk about that for a second.
Absolutely. So Nick, who's one of my Get Your Teach On brothers, he really shared this shirt with us. And really, it's really important because so pretty much it says real men teach. So all that means is that we have such few men who are in the teaching profession. And our goal is to get more gentlemen in the teaching profession. And look we have Wade Hope here. We got my boy Wade, and we have Nick right here. So what we're trying to do ultimately is our goal is to get more men in the profession, because right now my understanding is the statistic is there's about 12% of men are in K through 12th grade. So, the majority of those men are probably in high school. So we need our male students to see positive mentors and things in school. So we want to be on a campaign to get more men in the classroom to really teach and say that all men can teach. Let's just make it happen. But you got to come in there and make it happen for our kids, because that's what it's all about. So we're standing for men. We love our women. We love you guys. And we love the support that you guys give us in schools, because it's really, truly amazing. But we're trying to recruit more men in schools to make it happen for our kids.
All right. Thank you, Greg, so much for joining us. Tonight's episode, like we said, is sponsored by our friends at Really Good Stuff. Check out what they have to say about rocking your math block.
Hi, Greg and Chris. It's Angela
and Nicole from Really Good Stuff, and we're here with some of our favorite math products that we'd like to show you today. So
games.
Angela, you can start.
It's all about engagement, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a few games here. One of my favorites is our rock, paper, scissors game. We have 5 or 6 different versions of this. I brought 2 here today. This is the addition, and then I also have the multiplication and division. So the neat thing you'll see is you have an instruction card with all the answers on the back in case the kids have a little squabble like it's not true. Let's show them. So here's 100 chips. You don't have to use 100. You can break it up into small groups. So I'm just going to pull out a little pile, and Nicole and I are going to play and show you how it's done. So I'm going to go first. I got 7 plus 8 is 15.
And I got 14 plus 3, which equals 17.
So we both got it right. So what do we do now? We go to rock, paper, scissors. Guess what? We both got scissors. So we both got ours right, so we can keep them. Let's pretend like let's find one, rock. I would say rock crushes scissors, so then I would win. But you know what? We were at a trade show, and we heard a really fun one, that if the kids tie, they put the chips down, and they do real rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, we still got scissors. You get the idea. So in order to win this game, tell us what your favorite topic is in math and what grade level you teach. Again, I have addition and subtraction through 20 and multiplication and division to give away. And now Nicole's going to explain another great product.
This is our addition tower, which is really awesome. You actually get a whole big set of addition tower task cards. So you get 10 double-sided equation cards and 10 double-sided word problem cards. So I'm going to show you exactly how it works by just choosing a random card. So here we have
word problems.
Sophia packed 1 sandwich and 1 apple for her lunch. How many items were in her lunch bag in all? So you can either do it, or you could have your students do it. All they do is read the problem and solve it. So there was 1
sandwich
and 1 apple. And they can see where it lines up at the 2.
So 1 plus 1 is 2.
So 1 plus 1 is 2. Perfect.
Amazing. So again, if you would like this product, the Addition Tower, make sure you comment below your favorite math topic and what grade level you teach. Remember to check our website for tons of fun and engaging math activities. Bye.
Thank you, Angela and Nicole. If you want to win those awesome activities to rock your math block, in the comments, comment your grade level and your favorite concept to teach in math, and tag our friends at Really Good Stuff, and one lucky winner in the comments is going to win those. Pretty awesome, right, Greg?
That's awesome. I know which one I want. Rock, paper, scissors.
Greg's going to comment right now after this. All right, Greg, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to see you in New England in just a few weeks, so thanks so much.
Thank you.
2 weeks ago, Hope and Wade King launched their ClassFit program that has taken over classrooms throughout the world. Kids are getting up and moving and using ClassFit. And now we are so excited to announce that ClassFit videos are now available as UNICEF Kid Power Up. So if you go to unicefkidpower.org /GYTO-RIS-2019. So screenshot that right there. You can register for UNICEF Kid Power, and each ClassFit video that your class completes, you're going to be able to be working to fight the fight against malnourished children. So each video that you complete after registering through UNICEF Kid Power, you're going to be helping to solve and end world malnutrition, because each video you complete on UNICEF Kid Power helps children in need. So make sure you visit unicefkidpower.org /GYTO-RYS-2019 to register through UNICEF Kid Power. If you show us how you're using ClassFit in your classroom with UNICEF Kid Power, so through their platform to help fight malnutrition, and share it with #GetClassFit, one lucky winner is going to win a class set of yoga and workout mats for their class. So share with #GetClassFit, sign up and UNICEF Kid Power, and do those through Kid Power so we can be working to end global malnutrition. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Remember, registration is now open for Get Your Teach On Next Level, which is happening in Atlanta in 2020. Registration is officially open right now to dive deeper into your early math standards. I'm Chris Pombonyo. On next week's episode, Wade King and Katie Mullins are going to be on Get Your Teach On Live, giving an inside look on how to rock your classroom with music. We'll see you next week at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. See you soon.